Round 22, holds and sells. Now, the who's not list, unfortunately, it's Jerome Hughes, the injured man, 5.74%. So, yeah, there'll be 50% of people in the game rolling him out of their sides. Ruben, Garrick over 1, Egan, Duncan, Fainu, Foketi, all up there. And then it becomes more of the sort of interesting decisions. And even, Garrick is an interesting one at that. So, let's go through from hooker all the way down. Hope you've checked out the best buys, the round 22 video with timestamps. Get around that, and I hope that helps you make your decisions once you've worked out who to trade. And Chris Randall, he had the concussion. He's done a really good job for people there. Look, if you're in that mid-range, I had him as a pretty easy hold, and you could see there, was doing really well, 15 and 16 minutes, and then got the concussion, and he had the low game before, but that's when Fermor did as well. He could go back to the second row and get those good minutes following this week, so you get through the Penrith clash, which is will be a little bit more difficult, and then the run gets easier. So is he worth the hold? I think there is a case where you do. He's potentially your only hooker cover, and he helps in mid when you have a couple of these guys like Tapine, like Terrell May on bye. So I have him as probably more of a hold than some other guys because he does have the potential to hit 40s, 50s, and 60s and 70s there, which is great. Damien Cook, 577. If he's your only hooker cover, no reason in the world why you'd sell him. He's priced down at 43 now, and you're likely going to see scores between the high 30s and the high 40s and 50. And if that's okay enough for you as a guy that you'll probably have as 18th or 19th man, some weeks when you have teams on a bye, like the Tigers next week or the Raiders following that, you'll probably play him and you could get a 50 in that week, which is completely fine. So, with Cook there, lower ownership, not a guy you want to play week to week, but an easy hold. Also an easy sell if you want to upgrade and you have, Watson and also Clark, or you want Harry Grant and you want to play him week to week, then there's an upgrade there as well. Jayden Brailey, more just wasn't his best game, and the minutes are under 70 now, which you can see in round 20 was fine. He got 47. Just last week's 35 was a bit low. And most likely you'll see him score better than that. And I think just overall, under 500k is a guy you can easily hold and loop this week and then can play in case of emergency in other weeks. As I said, when those teams have buys, you may have a couple of Sharks, Nico and AFB or Nikora. Nikora and AFB or Nikora. Nice. Hines was the other one for that one there. So Bradley, fine. Someone who's going to lose cash, though, is Riley Smith. And I'd have him as the most priority sell. Him and Tallis Duncan in the whole game right now, just because they're likely to lose some cash. And with Riley's minutes dropping down tremendously, now he's near the 35 to 43 mark in the last 3 weeks, his scores won't be as great. So he's the priority sell. He's not going to be a guy that you want to play week to week, and is near 500k, so you can do a bit with him up, sideways, or up a little bit, 50, 100k, and also down to like a Joash Papali. So Riley Smith, pump him out his side. Tallis Duncan is 663. Now, it looks like he'll stick in centres, and we've had that for, unfortunately, 3 weeks in a row. Last week was the 30, and just had less tackle breaks and less opportunities for attacking stats like he had in a couple of games ago with the 2-try effort. So 663, you're not going to get the output that you want. So I think if you're probably 3 or less trades, it's a hold, but anything 4 and above is a clear sell. Slessy Foketi. This one, you're probably if you can use one trade to upgrade him, then I suggest that's a good play. You could probably find someone near 600k, the Jolloffs and these types of players that can score you near 50, whereas Foketi now off the bench, you're probably going to see the mid-20s up to sort of mid-30s is where I'd be thinking in about the 45 minutes like we saw last week. So being priced at 39, he's going to lose some cash and isn't really helpful for you in a 21 anymore at too high of a price. So you can see a trend here, guys. You want to be able to keep guys around this price that you may not play week to week, but when you do need them, they can hit near 50. And I think off the bench now, Foketi can't do that. So I'd suggest him to be sort of the third guy to make sure you remove from your side before guys like Garrick and Nwangi Tawaze. These types of players can go well. Nawa's got, even though he hasn't in the last few weeks, he's got 80s in his game. Foketi doesn't have that, and there's pretty well no chance from the bench that he goes over 60, unless there's an injury in the first minute to an edge back rower and he goes straight to that slot and plays the full 80. Adam Finnell-Blake is 619. You're still looking at a player similar to Tapine that has tremendous upside. He's got 3, 4, 5, 6 games over 60 this year, 2 of them 80 and above. So when you have that type of upside, it's hard to move on from you. And it's a very, very similar situation to Joe Tapine at 633. With both those guys, it's been a bit of a rough trot. You can see that they're 49, 37, 48, and 44. And he's dropped down about 100k from that time period, through that time period there. And Adam Finnell-Blake's a similar type of situation, down at 619, all the way from sort of a 726 that he was only 4 or 5 weeks ago. Really tough to hold these guys. And the minutes have dropped for both of them. Can the minutes go back? They both have a bye. I understand the sell thought on all of them, but they do have that game in them. They're not going to average 40 for the rest of the season. It just won't happen. There'll be a game in there where you want to be a part of it, and we'll see how it goes. Will it happen this week? I understand the sell, but as I've been saying, the guys that have 50 plus upside that are not ridiculously expensive, Tapine and Adam's priced at 46, Tapine priced at 47. So both those guys can do a really good job still. And 40s isn't the worst in the world. If it happens to be that way, then it's not going to help you unless they get 60 plus games, which can come. They're not going to help you make heaps of ranks. Horsburgh, real awful game for him on the weekend, to be fair. 32, still got 51 minutes, but 4 errors for him. Kind of crushed a lot of people's souls. But before that, he was 57, 57, and 69. So probably no real reason to sell him when he has that type of upside in more recent territory. I think AFB and Tapine are more out of form than Horsburgh. Just had a bad game. So he should be fine. But a similar situation to what I was talking about with Huddy Young and Hosking there and Foketi, they all might get a rest. Hosking, someone to think about more for the fact that there's a decent chance he loses his role in the team as a starter, probably from the Penrith game when Matty Nicholson does return. And if he looks pretty good in the Cup game, he's going to play round 23-ish in Cup is the plan, and then bring him back in round 25, which is pretty good for me and my side owning Hosking. The break-even's not too high either, so with Zachy Boy, we can easily hold on to him. I think he has a nice matchup this week against the left edge defense of the Dragons, and I'll keep saying that. And hopefully people loop him or do something with that position. And if that's if he goes out and does a great job, then you easily hold him until you probably use him in his buy for a loop, or you could easily sell him there. That could be fine at a decent price. So break even, not too low, not too high, not too low either, but a decent spot there. He'll be fine to hold for another week or two and see how it goes from there. Jerome, definite sell, just a sad one. Had to mention him with his poor shoulder. Hopefully he's okay and good to go come the time we end up back at finals, if that's the play. Now, Fainu and LKT still in a similar boat to the last week. I just think, personally on my side, I've got the 3 Tigers, so I would suggest that Fainu is the sell first. He also isn't looking very good, so he's had that one good score, but very reliably outside of that. In that halfback jersey, he's had a 35, a 27, 29, and 22. So most likely he goes near 30 or below. And not someone you want to concentrate on locking in your 17 week to week. So he's a sell. King Tonga, more just a guy to sit there at cheaper price, 30 under Latu. And chance to lose his spot, I suppose. And if he does, there's a potential looper. But I guess week to week, we're not going to want to play him anyway. So he'd be just sitting on our benches. Latu would just hurt more next week with the bye. So, and it's more expensive. Wighton, 4 games misses. He misses, unfortunately. So super tough on that one for Jackie Boy. And the Bunnies, they have enough injuries. They don't need suspension. So if you own him, only if you do, but he is a sell. One in the top 100 has him at 448k. Ruben Garrick at 563. So he's in a spot of bother, let's just say. At the moment, the last 2 games, he scored a try and got 35 and then picked up a 21. Now, he looks fine when he's out there. We could have a line break and something fun could happen in that one. In my world, I think there's still a chance you can hold him. He's got the Roosters this week. I think he could have a decent game against them. They're still looking to go left in attack, but it was just they got smashed on the weekend. Canberra will be a toughish clash there for the top of the table boys, and then the Tigers Dolphins, St. George, and Warriors. Like, that's a pretty nice finishing 4 games. So in my head, there's a world where he sticks in my side, and yes, he goes down to 500k or whatever it is, but we just don't sell him because he plays every game. Like, I'm thinking if I keep him in my side and hold, next week when the Tigers have a bye, I have 3 out, so I'll be playing him, which is not super ideal, but I'd play him there. And then for the last 4 rounds, you'd probably want to have him in your team anyway, him and Turbo. So I see a world where he's a pretty easy hold. The reason you'd sell him over Nwangi Tawaze is I just think running the footy, Nawa makes more tackle breaks, offloads, that kind of stuff, if the team isn't playing super well. With Nawa, he's more expensive at 40k, so the only reason I can get to Isaiah Katoa this week is through Marky Boy at his price. So you wouldn't be able to do it from Garrick. He's going to keep losing cash as well, but we've seen him to have some really nice upside as well. A couple of games in the 80s, and then you see 50s and 67, but just hasn't scored a try, unfortunately, in that last 3 weeks, 29, 27, and 35. And he was roaming to the left-hand side a little bit as well, which was nice. So yeah, something to think about with him, and hope that it goes okay. But their run, probably, once it gets to that last 4 games, it's much easier run for Garrick. But the next couple of weeks, you'd say a bit nicer for Nawa there. And then finishes well with the Bunnies. And I don't think any of these teams will, in the Eagles or the Roosters, will be resting their players. For Karapani, he's out this week. He's easy to use as a looping type player. At 410k, though, is a decent enough guy that you could move up or down. So had to throw him in there. He's basically done now, unless there's an injury. It looks like they're going to recall the boys and see if they can get a little bit more out of Cobbo and these types of guys. So we'll see how it all plays out. He could be back in the team next week, or he could stay out until an injury does surface. So that's the holds and the sells for round 22, guys. I hope that helped you out with your decisions and looking at that best buy. So go and check that out. You got Scoop's video, Mitch's video, and then myself and Nikki on the Sunday night TLT. All the good stuff. And we'll get in and sort of talk about a couple of teams, the rankings and where we're at, top 1,000, all the good stuff, and my trades heading into round 22 tomorrow.